There's a pencil, right? That's all I need is a pencil. A piece of paper would come in handy, and I'm going to write some dialogue, and it's going to take place in one place with 2 chairs, and that's all I need.
Hello everybody and welcome to our reviews, and today we're doing another video lineup in the director's series for David Mamet's kind of extraordinary work behind the camera in terms of his screenplay, in terms of his written based movies, his incredible dialogue and his very limited selection of directed based movies from the late 80s into the kind of late 90s, and I think he did his last one during the kind of early 2000s as well. But I'm talking about all the ones that I kind of got access to, and the ones in terms on Blu-ray, in terms on the streaming services, and then just kind of present to you what our thoughts and opinions as I go along on the journey. And for today's video, we're talking about Homicide, released in 1991, directed by David Mamet himself, written by him, of course. Main leading star is Joe Mantegna, who is very famous for the Simpsons movie, playing Fat Tony. Nice to see some movies where he's actually like the main leading character and get to know him a bit more outside of this kind of the Simpson role, and just see him more as a bit more of a character actor, serious actor. I've not seen many movies of him as the main leading man, which is a fantastic opportunity. And of course a couple of regular kind of, actors that pop up in these movies, including William H. Macy from the previous review that I did also, which also is a regular in a lot of these movies, kind of thing, pops up quite a few times. This one's a very interesting one also compared to what I did for the last video, which is a unconventional kind of thriller, kind of, explorative in terms of kind of faith and religion and ideals and kind of placement, and it definitely taps into those kind of very kind of human kind of emotions, and very similar to kind of last review in the sense of that one touching upon cancel culture and Me Too movement before it even happened, and dealing with kind of people's point of views and how kind of everyone is got their own kind of, can you take away something from everything in a sense, or can manipulate the situation in that sense. This one is very similar in that regard, and it's a very interesting one. This one is basically a traditional thriller to start off with, in the sense, you're kind of thrown into the situation, you've got the FBI, you've got a manhunt for this kind of psychopath that's going around kind of thing, gang territory, and you've got 2 detectives, you've got our main 2 leading characters that are kind of, very much kind of very not PC. They're saying things, they're doing things, slogans, kind of racial slurs, kind of very lots of swears, and they're just characters talking as they would in kind of, I suppose, I don't know if it's set in New York or Los Angeles, I'm not too sure the location is, but very kind of typical kind of B-cops, straight into the kind of action, straight into the scenario. No setup really, just kind of throwing straight into there. And the first kind of 20 minutes is fantastic because you get to know these characters really early on. They arrive to a scene, which is a bit of a police shootout kind of thing, and he ends up getting involved in a case which he didn't want to be involved with, which is basically a old Jewish lady who has been murdered in her convenience store. And there's something that isn't quite right, and a bit of conspiracy kind of falls from that, and he's kind of stuck on this case. He's first on scene, and he himself is a Jewish character, and he has no real connection with the kind of that community anymore. He kind of sees them as kind of all rich, kind of arrogant, kind of brats in a sense. He hates the way they kind of talk, he hates the way they kind of judge people. He goes into their kind of houses and sees how rich they are, and I don't think you get a sense of this character very early on in those kind of sequences where he hasn't got any kind of touch with his kind of religious side. He's Jewish himself, but he doesn't know how to read the books, he doesn't know history, he doesn't know his kind of his own faith in the sense, and his character is tested in a world where he doesn't know really much about, even though he's from that world in a sense, and that's interesting. And he's got another world, which is the kind of the police world, the kind of the cops, and look after your brothers and look after put as number one in a sense. And there's some great sequences in the film which really kind of challenges the character, and again I love it when characters get challenged and you get a split kind of person which wants to belong in some way, shape or form. He's definitely someone who wants to find his place, whether that is within his community, which isn't always to become the star within the film, and then he wants to be kind of known and recognised and being kind of loved and kind of praised within the kind of his kind of police force kind of unit and his family. And he's forced to do this murder case on top of chasing down this kind of manhunt, this kind of big case which FBI is involved, and he's kind of his loyalties are torn between the two. I would say overall what the film is trying to say is a character that is torn between his sense of placement in the world and his sense of crisis of faith and crisis of you know, who is he as a character? And I like how people kind of question him. I like how people kind of saying, well, you don't belong anywhere. Who are you then? You know, if you're saying you're Jewish and you don't know your background, you don't know your history, you don't know your people, your culture, your community, you know, then what are you then? Because you're not Jewish. And if you're a policeman, if you're, you know, took an oath and you're kind of, you know, by the book and that is trying to find his belonging within this crazy kind of, you know, weak story in a sense, and he definitely goes through quite a bit, I'd say, to say the least, for sure. And a film like Homicide and the way kind of David Mamet kind of writes, you never know where the film's going to take you. You never know where the film's going to do a curveball here and there, and I love that. Within all three movies, and technically four if I've seen, within his written work, I've never known where the story's going to go necessarily. I've got an idea, but it kind of does nice kind of soft curveballs. But when you look back on it, it actually makes complete sense. It actually flows well with the story, like with the character and what it's trying to say, kind of thing. Is your interpretation, of course. But Homicide is, you know, starts off as a traditional kind of, you know, thriller, then goes into a kind of a murder mystery, conspiracy, then goes into a question of kind of, you know, a character-driven kind of, you know, faith-breaking midlife crisis. You know, who am I? Where do I belong in my community? My oath as a police officer. And there's a great sequence in the film where he gets assaulted very early on in the start of the film by a kind of arresting civilian who is going to prison, kind of thing. And later on, one of the kind of the police officers says, "Well, you're going to file charges. We're going to definitely put the book on him," kind of thing. We're going to make an example out of him. So, well, what's the point? I don't want to do that. I'm not interested. He's going away from prison for life. You know, what I'm going to do? Well, it's a principle. You got to do this, kind of thing. And people keep telling him over and over again in the police force, like, you got to do this. I know the case. I know that. I know those leads. I don't care about that, kind of thing. You're going to do this. And, you know, they very much are based on, we are brotherhood, but we're not really. And there is a sense of kind of like, we're going to use you to get to our memes, and we're going to kind of leave you on the side when it matters. And even towards the end of the film, when, you know, a very personal thing has happened in the character's life, you know, people are saying things to him, but they don't actually mean it. They don't actually do anything about it. He's just there. And, you know, that side of that world is not really his family in that sense. He's just kind of alluding himself to be that character and to be that world. And the same with the Jewish community as well, in which that case, that world is very kind of judgmental and very kind of specific. And even the kind of the criminal conspiracy underworld that happens in the film as it kind of plays out is very much like using him as well, and wants to kind of, hey, look, you want to be part of this, you want to be part of us, you know, you got to do us a favor. You got to. Homicide's a very interesting film. I really enjoy watching this. I don't think it's available on DVD or Blu-ray. I don't think. Not in an easy access kind of way. This is available on streaming in the UK, so if you're interested in watching this film, this is on the Freeview verse on Amazon Player, so please go and check it out, see what you think for yourself. And again, if you like more of his work, go and check out some more of his movies. Hope you enjoy watching this review, guys, and please stay tuned for the next one coming up very soon.